Next, we're going to talk about four-way close voicings. Four-way close is a term used to describe the methodology and sort of in which we will create voicings built from the top down. All right. If we were to craft a little melody, let's say to change things up, we'll do something in the key of B flat major. All right. And we were to craft a little melody that was just over a B flat major chord. Okay, B flat major 7. And let's say the melody looked like this. Let's say we had F, A, B flat. All right, incredibly boring. If we were to create four-way closed voicings over this little melody, we would take this B flat major chord and spell it on every chord tone going downwards. All right, so if you recall, the notes in a B flat major 7 chord are B flat, D, F, and A. Right. So first we have to do a quick little analysis of the melody to figure out which these are chord tones. So we have F, which is the 5th. Right. So we'll make a note of that, or we'll just put a little check mark. We have A, which is the 7th. Good. And B flat, which is also the root. All right. So now what we do is sort of in sequence, we would go down chord tone to chord tone. So the chord tone below F would be D. All right. The chord tone below D would be B flat, which if we were to fill in the grand staff here. All right. And then the final chord tone that we're missing here is A. All right. So F, D, B flat, A. That gives us a four-way closed voicing. If we were to do the same thing here on this note A, right, we follow the same process. So the chord tone below A would be F. Chord tone below that would be D. The chord tone below that would be B flat. All right, and finally, if we were to do the same thing on B flat, we have a chord tone below that is A. Next chord tone would be F, which I'll go ahead and keep in the staff up here, and then the last chord tone would be D. All right. That, in essence, is our four-way closed voicing. Now, there's a few things we must think about when using four-way closed voicings. All right. The first is we want to avoid steps in the upper two voices. All right, we want to avoid steps in the upper two voices. A lot of times we do this by going back and using a substitution for a B flat major 7 chord. Remember that we can substitute 7th for the 6th, okay, or substitute the 6th for the 7th. So instead of having B flat major 7, we're going to have B flat major 6. All right, and that chord would be B flat, D, F, and G. Right? So if we were to rewrite this voicing with B flat major 6, we would have our B flat still on top, and then we would have a G, an F, and a D. All right. You'll notice that the major 6 chord sounds a little more definite than major 7, which is still a little more tension filled. So sometimes this can be an effective tone, especially if you're closing a phrase or we're ending strongly on a 1 chord. This can be a little more definitive. All right. The second thing we want to talk about is when we would want to use these. All right. When would we use four-way closed voicings? They work pretty well in trumpets and trombones, generally more for trombones than trumpets. And it can be a very effective technique for writing for saxophones. All right. But one thing that's important to realize is that with saxophones, we have 5 saxophones, right? We have 2 altos, tenor, and bari. Alto, alto, tenor, tenor, and bari. All right. Generally, when writing for saxes, you'll find it easiest if we use a grand staff. And that we do sort of what I was actually doing up here, where we put altos on the treble side and tenors and bari on the bass clef side. Of course, there are plenty of times where the tenor part will carry up into the treble part, and it's totally okay to sort of mix and match. But generally, it's a good idea and a good way to sort of check as to whether or not you are following good range and orchestrational rules is by making sure that the tenors stay in this sort of middle range between the clefs. It's usually pretty good. or where the two clefs sort of share some common ground. It's a much better way of putting that. You also notice that my eraser is fairly terrible, so I apologize. All right. When we are writing for saxes, since we need 5 instruments, we have to double one of these voices. All right. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll actually double the lead line in the bari. All right. So if I was to rewrite this melody again, I would write F, A, B flat, and I could actually double that in the bari part down an octave. F, A, and B flat. All right. Now, if I was just to fill in all the other missing tones that we just went through and analyzed. B flat, F. And then I'll use our B flat major 6 instead of B flat major 7 over here. This and that. All right, there's one part here where the tenor 1 is up here now instead of down there, but it's all good. We now have nice 4-way closed writing for saxophones. All right. This works pretty well up until we have melody or melodic material that's the C in the staff and above. As soon as we get to there, the tenor parts and bari parts will begin to sort of creep up in range. That's where the bari would be, and the two tenors would be above that, above middle C. Things can definitely start getting pretty hairy, especially if you have melody stuff that start using ledger lines, which is an okay range for alto, although it might be a little high, but definitely not good for the other instruments. All right. So let's quickly summarize with 4-way close. Definitely, we can use it with saxes from middle C to C above that. All right. We can use it for trombones. And certain times we can use it with trumpets. All right. Trumpets are rather finicky, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you're an aspiring pianist, you can also use these voicings as sort of basic jazz voicings for when you're comping through a song or trying to add harmony to a particular tune. All right. Let's just do one more quick example of something where we also might have 4-way closed using a melody that's a little more complicated. All right, let's think of something that's in rhythm changes. So we have harmony that's moving a lot quicker. All right, C minor, F7. We're sort of starting halfway through rhythm changes here, so I apologize. All right, and if we were to create a little melody here, let me flip these stems around. So as I'm going here, I'm trying to come up with something that'll have at least a little bit of melodic shape to it, even though it might not be the greatest thing ever written here. That'd be a B flat. I'm also trying to keep the stems up so that I have room to write below the notes, even though that might break some other notation rules. I'm going to change that to a C. All right. Here I've crafted a little melody that hits on some chord tones. for each of these chords. You notice the chords change every 2 beats, which can be a little frantic, but it's very common in a lot of jazz writing. What we want to do is a quick little analysis to find all the chord tones. We will circle non-chord tones and talk about those in a later discussion. But over C minor, we have a G, then we have an A. It's a non-chord tone. We're going to save that. Over F7, we have a C and a B flat. We don't care about the B flat for now. Over this B flat major, we have A, F, D, F. Good, those are all in the chord. G minor, we have a G. It should be a G and a B flat. That's good. C, we just have 2 C's. F7, we have A, F, E flat, all chord tones. F minor 7. F, G, that's not in the chord. A flat, C, and 2 B flats over the last B flat 7. All right. So I'm not going to necessarily talk through each of these chords as we go. I'll talk through the first few, but then I'll just write out these voicings as we go. I'll first write them out just as 4-way closed voicings, and then I'll double the melody line if we were to write this as a little saxophone solely. All right, so with C minor 7, the chords in C minor 7, right, are C, E flat, G, B flat. So we have a G, we're building down. The next chord tone would be E flat, and then we have C and B flat. All right, it's good. We're going to ignore that tone for now. Here we have a C over F7, right? That's F, A, C, E flat. So we're building from C down. So C, and then we have an A, then an F, and an E flat, right? Which I'll write there. All right, that's non-chord tone. B flat major, right? We have B flat, D, F, and A. So we have an A, so the next chord tone would be F, and then we have a D and a B flat. Here we have an F, then we have a D, B flat, and an A. Here we have a D, so the next chord tone would be B flat, and then here we would have A, and then an F. Here we have another F. We can just copy our voicing from before. Right? Over our G minor chord, right, it's G, B flat, D, and F. So here you have a G. So we go from the top again. So here we have an F. We'll have to come back to that. A D, and then a B flat. Right? And I'm going to underline that note because it's a weird one. Here we have a B flat, so then we'd have a G underneath it. Then go back and have an F and a D. All right, let's stop for a second and just talk about this. Remember that as you're writing out these 4-way closed voicings, we'll want to be especially aware of moments where we have a step in between the melody line and the tone right below the melody line. A lot of times this can cause some obscurity or blurring of the melodic line. In this case, because it's only an 8th note and it's sort of in a saxophone solely, this will probably be forgiven. All right, but if it's something where it's a fast passage, or sorry, not a fast passage, a passage in which we're landing on a tone for that's sort of closure or that lasts longer than half a beat, like that half note or this dotted quarter there, this dotted quarter there, then we definitely probably want to get away from that. All right, but in this case, since it's just an 8th note and then opening up to a 3rd, that'll actually probably be okay. All right. I'm actually going to stop, I think, with my little quick analysis of this at this juncture here, because I think hopefully we're on the right track for how we'd create these 4-way closed voicings. Now just remember, if we were to turn this into full saxophone solely, the top 2 lines here would be 2 altos, and we would add Barry by just doubling the melody line below, right? So we'd add a G, we would add a C, we would add A, F, D, F, A, F, D, F, right? G, B flat, G, B flat, etc. All right. You'll find that as you're crafting a saxophone solely in notation software, a lot of times it's actually easiest to copy the alto part into the Barry, take it down an octave, and then it's just a matter of filling in the blanks with a few additional things we might have to change. All right. From 4-way close, the next thing we're going to go to is drop 2.